But pharmaceutical and healthcare, it really seems to be. That's been the flavor for the last 3 months. So let's continue our discussion forward. Joining us right now, Dr. Om Manchanda, who is the MD at Dr. Lal PathLabs, joining in the show right now. Dr. Manchanda, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining in. First, let's talk about your Q1 numbers. How's the business been in the last 2 months? That's June as well as July. And has the recovery, you think, been faster than what was anticipated earlier?
Good morning. We actually got impacted severely in the month of April and May. And primarily, it was due to lockdown effect, because that restricted the movement of our samples from various cities and also movement of patients. Then we saw a sharp fall in walk-in patients coming to our labs. We also had seen sharp fall in OPDs. I think the recovery momentum started sometime late part of the May, when lockdown restrictions getting relaxed. And then we saw a very sharp recovery in the month of June as well. Some of these trends are very early. We'll have to probably see how it pans out going forward, because some of it might just be due to pent-up demand. And we also saw some gains coming due to, because competition not able to serve these markets from far-off places, we also did see some gains coming on account of new customers. So I think it's early days for us to see what the pattern is going to be going forward, but we did see a smart recovery in the month of June.
Sure. We were chatting with Dr. Velumani from Thyrocare just last week, Dr. Manchanda, and he said that, COVID is going to be to pathology labs what diabetes as well as thyroid have been in the last 2 decades. Do you think COVID actually poses that kind of abundant opportunity for diagnostic space?
See, I look at COVID as, especially our company role, I see this as supporting local governments, state governments, and district authorities. We don't know how the pandemic is going to take shape, but we know that we have to build capacities for RT-PCR testing and also for antibody. But right now, most of the testing is RT-PCR. But one must remember that government has also built a lot of capacity in the recent past. So it is basically, if you look at our COVID business in the last 3 months, 60% of it is coming from the government side. And I'm not sure how it's going to pan out as government builds a lot of capacity on RT-PCR testing. As far as antibody testing is concerned, we haven't seen much surge so far, but going forward, one doesn't know, because this is not a diagnostic test. It's more a serosurveillance test, and it depends how the pandemic actually takes shape going forward. But we look at our role as supporting state governments and district authorities in managing these pandemic challenges.
Having said that, ultimately you are a listed company. This is a new top line which will get added to your company. Is this more like a national service you would like to call, or this is something where in the long term you are likely to make money and this will add to a revenue line?
See, as far as the revenue line is concerned, I do believe that it will become part of the portfolio, because any other infectious diseases, you take swine flu, you take dengue, you take malaria, or any other such disease, this particular pandemic also will actually add to our portfolio. So COVID-19, according to me, will become a part of portfolio, but the trend line is not very, very clear as to how it's going to be. And one also must remember that some of central labs have a centralized model of testing, especially for RT-PCR as well as, let's say, antibody testing. But there are also rapid tests that tend to come, like we have seen rapid antigen or even rapid antibodies test, which is still not yet come. But the moment that comes, then this test will be widely available across all the labs in the country. Today, RT-PCR test is done by only few handful of labs. But the moment you actually go into antibody tests, my sense is most of the smaller labs also will do those tests. So having said that, it will definitely become part of our portfolio, but one is not very clear about the trend line as to how it will settle down in our portfolio.
Okay, the quarter gone by was a bad quarter and everyone knows why. When do you think your existing business will normalize, and because of the additional revenue line which you've got, are you likely to end the year with flattish growth, no growth, or a dip in growth?
See, as you rightly picked it up, the business is now split between two revenue lines. One revenue line is what our parent original business was, which we call it non-COVID. The other is COVID. Now, COVID business, what we know is what we have done in the last quarter. Going forward, it's very difficult to put a number on that. As far as non-COVID is concerned, because a lot of our operational focus is going to be on that, just to make sure that our collection centers, our labs are open to serve our patients. We have seen a very good recovery in the month of June, but it may be early whether it is actually sustainable at this number. But if I were to put a guess on this, I think in Q3 onwards, we should recover as much as non-COVID business as possible going forward. And top line growth will actually be determined by how non-COVID really shapes up. As far as non-COVID is concerned, I do believe later part of the year we should actually come back to our normal sort of what we did last year. We should cross that number as an exit rate.
Now there are closing comments really. For investors now, there are a couple of diagnostics labs which are listed, and each one has different model to offer. Tharocare believes in being the kitchen of the world. Metropolis is only focusing on, let's say, what could be called as wellness and high-end test. What would be your USP for investors when I have to compare you with other diagnostic firms, or if there has to be a relative case for somebody?
So our USP essentially is basically a hub and spoke model, where spokes are collection centers and hubs are labs. And we actually, if you look at historically, we've grown organically quite well. And we end up picking up a geography, start focusing on that, and we start trying to cater to all diagnostic needs. So we are neither a wellness company nor a diagnostic. I think we actually are a full service model. The moment we go to a particular market, we just focus on hub and spoke and drive network effect through collection centers and drive costs down through economies of scale so that we can do a centralized testing. Now, and that's how we expand our network. And we have close to 216 labs. And these labs, when they come up, then we start focusing on deepening our presence in that particular cluster. So I think I would say that we operate in a particular market and try to address all segments of diagnostics in that market.
All right, Mr. Manchanda, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a break.